Hi, everyone, and welcome to Massive Source podcast. Today, I have Chanelle and Tariq with me. Super excited to do this podcast. I've been really looking forward to talking to you for a long time. You're such avatars and knowledgeable peoples in your fields. I really feel there's so much we can cover in this short podcast that would really kind of illuminate maybe the areas or go into depth into the areas that many people are wondering about. They're starting to question, or they have all of a sudden a little bit of new interest, or for the searchers, but even for the people who are quite established in spiritual fields or what's going on in the world today. So first off, I would love for you to introduce yourself. I usually do that because you do it better than I ever could. So please tell me who you are in the world and what you're here to do.
Sure. So maybe I'll begin first. I'm a transformation artist. So really, I come into people's lives, look at how their habits either support or don't support what their objectives are, what their goals are, and help them rewire and reconfigure all of that so that it becomes in alignment with who they want to be in the future and help them embody that today. I also teach communication and how to be able to communicate and speak in a way to captivate your audience, as well as showing people how to package their services and gifts into products and services so that they can get their message and mission out to the world.
Yes, and I had a very what's allsidig, what's that again? Many faceted journey. So I'm a detox and vitality coach. I'm also a yoga teacher, and I also teach breathwork. And then also we hold retreats together and events and workshops all over the globe.
Amazing. And I've known you, Chanelle, through mostly social media, but we're from the same country, Norway. So we're kind of in the same surroundings, but you've had very interesting journeys separately as well. So in you, Tariq, you're from Jordan, is that right?
Jordan originally, yes.
Yeah, I've been there actually. It's one of my favorite countries in the world. It's the
Wow.
people
Really?
there are just stunning. Yeah. But I feel that what I would really love to talk about is a little bit about how you came into these fields and your purpose, and how come it became so important to you. Why would you choose this over the life that you had, and were there like pivotal moments? I'd love to hear the stories of how people came to where they are today. I mean, in a short, if that's even possible, short kind of abbreviation. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, there's a number of key pivotal moments for sure. I
Mm.
suppose I'll preface this by saying that as a child, I really had this limitless view of the world and a limitless view of myself, and I had full and utter belief. So while everyone was trying to say, focus on this grade or focus on this subject or this topic, I was like, no, I can be good at everything. I can do this and I can do that. And I
Yeah.
was very much living into that. And then I kind of got sucked into the system and then went into school, got my grades, went to college, went to university, got my degree, got my master's, and then I wound up selling computers, which was my part-time job, which became a full-time job. And that's really where I realized that my life had derailed from my passion and from my purpose.
Mm.
And this was maybe, I don't know, 12 years ago now. And that was really a key moment, was going from there and then recognizing that I had strayed from what I was here to do. And how I then came back onto the path is another story. It really depends how much you want to dive into. But that
Well,
was one of the key moments, is going into the working world and realizing that I've done everything that everybody said I should do. I've got my grades, I've got my degree, I've got my master's, and I'm no happier.
mm. And I do think that, I mean, also for a man, maybe, I can't, but what I was just thinking about it, that this is the first like couple interview I'm doing. I usually have one-on-ones. And so this is an interesting opportunity as well to speak from both the male perspective and the feminine in the same podcast, because I do also, from what I've heard through stories and journeys that men have done, is that there is a sense of, I don't know if this resonates for you, but there is a sense of responsibility and also like focus and responsibility to show up in, to manage, to have a job and to be the provider, and that you can't necessarily just take off time to feel, and this doesn't feel good. It's more like the cognitive, part takes over in society. So how did you feel when you did the shift, when you started embarking upon, your own personal journey?
Sure. So a way that I would describe it is, have you ever been walking down a really like busy street? Let's say everybody's on the way to work and everybody's just like this mass exodus of people all going in one direction. And then you realize like, oh no, I forgot something. And you have to turn around and walk back through the crowd that's all stampeding toward you. That's basically how I felt a lot of my life growing up. So I felt like I was very different than the structure that I was placed in. And so for me, as a child, and even to this day, I've always been able to identify with feelings. I've always been very comfortable talking about my feelings, very open in that regard. So for me personally, I know that as men, we're conditioned to be numb because we confuse numbness with strength. We confuse stoicism with courage, and actually I believe in being fully expressed and fully embodied and being able to talk about your feelings and also be able to make serious decisions and choices and establish yourself and live into your purpose. So I very much had that integrated from a young age, even though society and family structures and cultural structures were very much trying to encourage me away from that. So really it's always been something that's alive in me, and that's really what I'm part of my journey is to help other men reconnect with that side of themselves, realizing
Amazing.
that it's innately human. It's not a weakness. It's not feminine to own your emotions because your emotions are part of who you are.
It's essential. No, that's beautiful. It's beautiful to hear that. I love hearing about like the new masculine, how you're journeying, because it's not necessarily that easy. I mean, you and I, Chanel, I guess you've lived your entire childhood in Norway.
Yeah.
Yeah, like me. And the feminine is super strong, and it's not easy necessarily either for the man to find a new identity and a new kind of footing in the world as this vulnerable, or at the same time touching into his strength and his like the hero aspect of his personality, whilst being super vulnerable and emotional. But how has your journey, Chanel, been on the other, like on the feminine aspect, to go into that?
Yeah. So my journey started, or more my spiritual journey started very much when I was 16, 17. And I went to the school library. And this was a normal Norwegian school library. This
Right.
was not like a spiritual school library or something like that. And at that time, I was really feeling like I was wasting my time. I was sitting in high school and we were learning algebra, and I had learned it 3 times before, and I knew I was going to never use it, and I knew that I would forget it. And I was really feeling like I'm not learning anything of what I want to learn about the cosmos, about the universe. I had some really big questions going on, and I didn't feel any, input from anywhere to my questions. So I went to the school library, and at this time I was really starting to believe in signs from the universe. I started to pray. I didn't even believe in God or anything. I just prayed, and I could see that my prayers were answered. So I
Wow.
went to the school library and I ran my fingers across the books, and I said, stop. And I pulled out a book that really, really changed my life. And that was
Really?
the Tibetan Book of the Living and Dying. And that book talks a lot about spiritual masters. So reading that book where I was sitting in high school and feeling really like a little bit lost, I was like, oh, I need a spiritual master. And I didn't know where to find a spiritual master, but I quit school and I went to Bali. And I didn't know anything about Bali. And at that time, I was 2.5 years into high school, so I only had 6 months left. And everyone was panicking, like, you can't quit school. But I was like, I'm not following my heart, you know, I need to follow my heart. And after 1 week in Bali, I met a spiritual master, and he became, so he took me to his teacher, and he took me to his teacher, which was an Indian guru. And I used like 5-6 years going between Norway and Bali, just studying the Vedic teachings, and also to India. So that became such a big fascination for me when I found the Vedic teachings. And the Vedic teachings is the source of the Buddhist and Hindu traditions. And actually all of the Eastern traditions, they stem from the Vedic teachings. And I would run to every class because it was so exciting. And but when I went to that school library, I picked out 2 books. So one book was that, and I picked out another book too that was also life-changing. So one book took me to Asia and to Bali, but another book is called Shaman, Healer, Wise Man. And that book talked a lot about plant medicines. And I was like, oh, I need to find plant medicines. So by the age of 18, I went to the Amazon to find ayahuasca. And went deep. It's a story by itself. I'm not going to say it here because it's quite long. But it's me and 4 friends, we went into the Amazon to find plant teachers and also shamans to study with them. And that took me on a whole nother...
As you do when you're 18.
As you do when you're 18. And that took me on a whole nother journey, which really like escalated my life into like, when I was 19, 20, I couldn't turn my head in any direction in the world without bumping into really strong and powerful spiritual teachers. If I went to Brazil, I went to India and to Bali and Norway, and wherever I went, I would meet these very amazing teachers. So I used a lot of years just studying different spiritual principles, and also within different spiritual lineages, and also to see the likeness of the different traditions. And I really, in so many ways, I feel like that time prepared me for this time and the work that we're doing now, because now I don't have that many interactions with in that way. So I was in many ways under training in that time. And yeah, so now the last decade we've been running, or me first, and then when I met Tariq, we've taken that together, where we run a lot of retreats globally, and we also run workshops and events where we teach different spiritual traditions and principles.
There is just so much. We need to do another. I already said that I want to do another in-person podcast because there's
Oh, for sure.
so much. There's so much that we could touch upon, and I think that what I always go back to is the feeling of it, so people can identify. And it's such a strong, I mean, I've never heard all of this before, just snippets of it. So this makes complete sense, because in your presence and when I hear you speak, there is this, there's weight to it, weight in not a heavy way, but weight in terms of embodiment. Like we spoke briefly before we started the podcast. This is what I feel is the most important aspect. Whatever teaching you take in, it's only going to be, teachings like you, Tariq. You speak about the power of word. It's all, unless you embody, unless it becomes you, unless you feel. And I feel that that's the whole thing about embodiments, is about being in touch with your feelings. So could you touch upon, I know there's probably a myriad of experiences or things, but if you could speak a little bit about how you were feeling, how that feeling led you to go deeper, and because then I'm feeling like that's where people can also identify with where to go, how to, there's a myriad of things we can do, but how do we get there? That's usually a question I get a lot. I feel confused. I don't know where to go.
Yeah, so I can share the moment where I would say my spiritual journey began. And so I was in England. I had my degree, I had my master's, and I was working full time selling computers. And I would wake up in the morning and I would open the curtain and it would still be dark outside. And I would put on this purple uniform button by button, put on my jacket and go outside in the freezing cold and wait for the bus and then get on the train and watch the scenery pass by, which is kind of how I felt my life was at the time, just a big blur of days and nights repeating themselves. And then I'd arrive at this big steel and glass building and look at all the lights of all the computers and the laptops and the sale signs and everything like that. And the big moment for me was I had called in sick for a couple of days, which I wasn't, it was the first time that I'd called in sick like that and not actually been ill. But I felt this clash in my life that I wasn't living my purpose. And I saw that if I don't make a choice right now, I'm going to be stuck in this job 10 years from now, 20 years from now, because that's a trap that so many people fall into. They get a degree in something they're really passionate about, and then they end up just having a normal job and never actually making use out of it. And so I remember I remember that morning I walk in and I knew that I was going to get some kind of attack, and my Scottish manager comes, running down and sees me and goes, "Tariq," because that's how they pronounce my name, right? Didn't pronounce my name right.
No.
"Tariq, Tariq, where have you been? Where have you been?" And I was like, I'm sorry, I needed to think. And he's like, we're relying on you for our sales. Where are you? And it's true, I was bringing in like 5 times the sales of the other employees, right? But in so many instances when I showed them this and I asked them to just like honor that, give me a little bit of a raise, give me a little 50p bump in my salary, they were like, "We'll talk about that in a few months." And it was always delayed and delayed. And so I remember that moment, and the manager's, looking at me seething, or looking up at me because he's a little shorter than me, seething and going, "Where have you been? How can you explain yourself?" And I was like, just calmly took this folded paper from my pocket, unfolded it, gave it to him, and said, "I quit." And suddenly his tone completely changed. And he was like, "Quit? What do you mean you quit? What are you going to do for money?" And I was like, I don't know, I'll figure it out. He was like, "What are you going to do for a job?" I was like, even if I end up just cold calling people or washing dishes, at least I'll know I stood up for myself and I made a choice that was right for me in the moment. And he's like, "Tariq, look at Katie. Look at Mark. You don't see them complaining. They just get on with it." And I'm like, "Yeah, but that's great for them. But like, I have things I want to do with my life. And I know, like, I've already been here a year and a half. I have a degree and a master's in 3D animation. I haven't been able to do anything with it. I have to make this choice for me."
Yeah.
And at that moment, I just walked off and, I shook off the emotion, and I felt really good. I felt like I had actually made a decision for myself. And chips fall where they may, I was banking on myself. And if you can't bank on yourself, why should anybody else, right? Now, the crazy thing that happened was that leading up to this event, my mother had told me about The Secret. She was like, "Have you heard of The Secret? There's this book, there's this movie, this phenomenon called The Secret." And I was like, "What's The Secret?" And I watched The Secret and I was like, "Great, I know there is a secret, but I still don't know how to use the secret. Like, the secret to the secret's still a secret." And then the part that really clicked into place that day was because I had made this choice, I carried myself differently. I stood differently. My chin was higher. My shoulders were broader. And I got talking to a customer a few hours later, this older English gentleman. And I said, "What do you do?" Because it was normal to start conversation with customers that way. And he said, "I'm an inventor." And I was like, "An inventor? Who invents things these days? Like, I've never met an inventor." I was like, "What have you invented?" He was like, "The technology behind the iPod. I'm actually in a lawsuit with Apple." I was like, "Wow, that's fascinating." He was like, "What do you do?" And rather than say sell computers, I was like, "I'm an animator." And he was like, huh, are you any good? I could use an animator. And so I was like, I'll show you. And I logged onto a computer and I had changed my password to I'm leaving soon. So for the last 2 months, I've been writing my name, Tariq, password, I'm leaving soon, over and over and over and over and over again. And then I showed him my show reel and he was like, pretty good. How much are they paying you? And I said, $7 an hour. He was like, how about we start with 8? And he reached out his hand. And I shook his hand and I realized what had happened is that the secret works. But they don't tell you have to make a leap of faith first.
Yeah.
They don't tell you that you have to boldly step in the direction of your truth first, and then the universe will close that gap and bridge you the rest of the way. And so then I realized, oh my God, manifestation, all the stuff they're talking about, it's true. And I realized I had to dive into the subject. And the next 10 years of my life, we're diving into how to make manifestation work, which really led into a whole spiritual journey, also plant medicines and a bunch of other stuff.
Wow. I love it. I love when you can talk about, and the accents, by the way, stellar. But you're an actor, aren't you? Or you've done acting classes, I think. Yeah. Oh my God, that's funny. That really took me there. But totally, it's so fascinating. And I think this is what I love, the inspiration to keep on going, to keep on searching. And I really wanted to touch upon something that I heard in one of your podcasts, which I also think, this is probably going to go over time, but our origins, our star origins. I remember you, especially Chanelle, speaking about, because I think that's also linked to what you're saying, Tariq, and or basically the whole theme of what we're talking about, embodiment. So what does embodiment mean? I'm posting also a lot about our potential,
Yeah.
how we use only 10% of our DNA and the rest is called junk DNA, which couldn't be further from the truth. And I just did a video on different narratives we're being told. So I would love to, I'm not even going to say, because it's not even possible to go briefly into these topics, but isn't
It's
that,
a pretty big one.
yeah. But I would love for you to share a little bit, if you feel like it,
For sure.
about our true origins and how you came to
For sure.
that.
I can start first. One thing that was coming up when you were talking about that is really that a lot of people think, spirituality is really like going out of the body, having like all these flashy things going on in, transcendental meditations. But for me, it's really all about incarnating fully in the body and fully bringing the soul and the higher aspects of your being into your physical body. Because we all have access to everything, and to really incarnate our higher abilities, so we're not also only operating in our shadow realms. And I think that's very beautiful in the Vedic teachings. They say 7 up and 7 down, that there's 7 realms up and there's 7 heavenly realms up and 7 more hellish realms down. And we have all of those realms inside of us. There isn't like outside of us, it's inside. And we all have access to the full spectrum. So spirituality for me has really been about how can I anchor down more of my higher faculties? Because that's really where also more of the paranormal stuff happens, and more of the other abilities that we all have access to if we choose. And I think if we go back to the second thing you talked about, our origins, because that's one of my favorite topics, because it's really the true story of this planet. And we've actually been struggling just watching movies lately, because nothing comes close to what's going on in reality. This is the most epic. You won't even find a science fiction movie close to what's going on this planet and the true story of this planet. And I think it's very what's been going on, one of the things that's been going on is that everyone, for a very long time, we've been told that there's a missing link. We stem from some stupid cavemen and some stupid monkeys. And that's a great way of dumbing down a whole civilization. It's a really good recipe of basically brainwashing everyone to think that we're stupid and we're just, evolved monkeys. and that couldn't be further from the truth, because we have primate in us, but we have also, you know, what they have coined the missing link, which is not missing at all. They know very well what we are. They're not telling us, but they know. And the missing link is that we are star species. We have our ancestors dwelled in the stars above us. We come from the heavens above us, and that's, you know, what's gonna be unraveled in the decades to come, I strongly believe. But there's some beautiful, really beautiful, also stories that I've heard. For example, when the white man came to the native Indians in the US, and then they told them, you know, they met one of the chiefs, the chief hövding of the tribes.
Yeah.
And the chief leader said to the white man, "You might stem from monkeys, but we don't." And then they pointed to the stars. And I've studied with a lot of tribal people far in the Amazons. I've sat with a lot of medicine people that are native to the forest. They haven't been out of the forest. And in these tribal communities, and you will find these tribal people all over the globe, they haven't lost that link. They know where we come from. They haven't been brainwashed. They haven't been told all these lies. And it's beautiful because we're divine beings. We have some very, very special ancestors that cares also a lot about us. We're very special humans, and we've been told that we're not. And I think that the true story of who we are, for me, is just so immensely beautiful. And that's also what's going on now, is we're really wrapping up, uncovering and evolving into the next level of our evolution, which is very much connected to these star beings, because we are these star beings. We are their children. Yeah. And I love also the story of how, you know, you think about Hawaii, the islands of Hawaii, there was nothing there. They came out of the ocean. A volcanic island came out of the ocean. There was nothing there. It was only lava. Everything on Hawaii has been brought there with the sea and with the wind. And look at Hawaii now. It's tropical, it's lush, it's beautiful. And the same for Earth. Earth was all, if you go back far enough, Earth was all a red planet. There was only volcanic activity here. Everything here has been brought here. It's a lot of these people who say they say it's a genetic library. And some of the species on this planet has been brought here whole. You can't find the evolving, you know, they came here whole. Some species, they can't find the track record of them, or have they evolved from other forms. So, like, for me, this stuff is the most juicy stuff out there. It doesn't get more interesting, because it's also the true story of our origins. And some people will have problems with this, and some people will be like, that makes sense, because it does make sense, because it's truth.
Yeah. And that takes us kind of to the questions that come forth as you speak of this. I can feel it all over my body as you talk of this. It's the most beautiful energy there is, to me as well, to be connected to what I call the divine. You know, it's who we are. And I know also for a fact that, you know, when things resonates on a deep level, you feel it.
Yeah.
However, I love that we're touching upon this, but I do believe that some of the spectators or the people watching, of course, they have questions such as, why has this not been uncovered? What is the agenda? And where can I find more of this, say, alternative information? If I need, I call it remembrance. If I want to dive deeper into remembering who I am, who we truly are as a species. So that would take us probably into like the whole COVID.
Yeah, there's different sources of information, but for me, like me personally, I was in a network of people who work very high up in political systems. So on a presidential level, and also with direct links to the CIA and the KGB and also to FBI. I was in that network for many, many years. So we got information from the highest top, from the leadership, and they all talk about this stuff. They do. This is what they talk about. This is what their conversations are about. They know it.
And why would they be so interested in talking about that and not disclose that information to the rest of the public?
Oh, to know why not to disclose it to the rest of the public? That's a very simple question to answer.
Yeah.
Because the goal is not for you to be empowered. The goal is for you to be controlled and be able to obey and follow. And
it's a complex story. It's a long story. It's like it's
in the same way. The reason that a farm works is because the animals don't know they're on a farm.
It's a very complex discussion, and we're talking thousands and thousands of years of history, of Earth history.
Yeah.
And what's been going on in the galaxies also.
And I think what I'm doing also with this podcast is I see it as planting seeds. And then I know that also people can follow both of you. You share a lot of information, and I hope you will continue to do so forever and do the magnificent work that you do. But I mean, you go much, much deeper, especially in an interview that really illuminated a lot of these things for me during COVID or the lockdown that you did with, his name is blank. Sasha Stone, yes, who is a major activist. But what I just have to say, what gives him such validity is the fact that he has all of these connections. He is, as you say, as you've been connected to as well, part of and have been leading, you know, what was it? The UN general, he was like working for the UN, I think, or he has been a part of the system. He's not just another activist or conspiracy theory, you know. He speaks from real evidence of what has happened, what is happening, and that gave me such a I've heard all of it before, but to be very honest, what we do is that, of course, how can I truly believe that this is the truth? And now it's all in plain sight.
One of the things that this time really signifies is to stop searching for answers from everyone else and to really tap into yourself and see what resonates for you. That's the main part of our work, is really to guide people back to themselves. Even if we talk about nutrition, or if we talk about consciousness, or this or that, it's always about what resonates for you, because you are so intelligent. Your body, like, it heals itself. If you cut yourself, it heals itself. There isn't any machine that can do that. Like, it's special. And to really guide people back into themselves, and then you can feel and tune into, does this feel right? Does it, when it hits your field, what do you feel? Does it sound truthful to you? Because you have the ability to tune yourself. Like, your body, it's like an instrument, and you can tune it just like you tune a guitar, or you can really tune yourself to become more in tune with what is truth and what is truthful to you. And that's very, very important, because we've been told everything, and this is right, and this is, we've been brainwashed in so many ways. And to really, like, I love this, one of my spiritual teachers, he said this many years ago. I went to my home city, and he was having a talk there, and he said, like, Norwegians are as conformed as North Korea. And everyone's like, so many people were shocked, you know. But I was like, yeah, I totally understand where he's coming from, because we don't see it. We don't look. We think we're so free, and we think we're so free thinking. No,
it's hard to fight against something you don't even see is there. So if you don't see yourself as being limited in your freedom in any way, or limited in your expression, or limited in your capacity to evolve, there's nothing to fight against. There's nothing to stand up to, because in your mind, oh, I am free. And actually there's different levels of freedom. It's one thing to give you two choices and say, here, you can choose either this politician or this politician. You're free. But yeah, but those are just two choices of people that you've pre-elected and you've put in here. What about all the other different forms of leadership? What about all the other different choices that there are out there? You know, so it's expanding your idea of what freedom means.
Also, if you look at history, when we talk about, maybe for some viewers it will be difficult to take this in, but look at history. Everyone that maybe even told, you know, the Earth doesn't. What did Copernicus say? Copernicus, do you remember?
Yes. I don't
He was
remember what he
killed.
said.
He was killed, put to jail for a long time, and then he was killed because he said,
That the Earth orbits around the sun.
yeah, something like that. And it really challenged the religious structure and all of this. We don't maybe have a very strong religious structure. We have a new religion which is called scientists or scientism. That's like, it's being treated like a very strict religion and has a very strong grip on everyone's life, where people don't even feel like they can think freely without being, you know, arrested to some extent. So we have other structures in this day and age which is very much limiting us. So we're also living in a time where it's really about breaking out from these invisible constructs that are really limiting us to a big degree.
So let's talk. I'm loving this. Let's talk more about those limiting structures that people can't see, because that's what I love about your posts. And as I said, especially you, Tariq, you have very clear ways of seeing what many people can't see and breaking down what is in plain sight. And you know, you studied this for a long time, both of you. But would you go in a little bit more about what's actually going on in the global pandemic, what this is about in terms of freedom structures?
So I'm going to answer your question with a few questions.
Yes.
So because I think I'm not here to provide answers. I don't think anybody should be here to provide answers. I think the answer in itself is to begin asking more questions. Don't simply take on what someone says, whether myself or a news anchor or a politician or whomever, as gospel. Ask yourself questions. And so some of the questions that I would ask is, if the goal of the mainstream media is to truly support and nurture all of the people living in the cities, why is there no talk of how to boost your immunity? Why is there no talk of different remedies and things that are available in nature that could help support your body's functions? Why are things like, I mean, a lockdown and keeping someone confined within a small space is known to be bad for your immunity. Keeping somebody in fear is known to weaken your immunity. Keeping someone out of sunlight, saying you can only go out, you know, in some places in the world for 1 hour a day, that's physically, biologically affecting your immune system. So if these powers that are in place really care, why is there no talk of how to boost your immune system? Also, when you look at the businesses that were closed during the lockdown, health food shops were closed because they were deemed unessential. Meanwhile, a liquor store that sells alcohol and tobacco stayed open. How can you justify that logically if the goal is to actually support you and care about your health? So these are just some of the questions that I ask in my mind. You know, why are there so many links between the different financial interests at play? Why have all the movies, all the sci-fi movies of the last 10 years almost prophesized the things that are happening now? Because in so many ways, I feel like that's predictive programming and gearing people into the mindset. Because we are, if I learned anything about manifestation, it's that we have a very high capacity to create with our mind. And when you have everybody focused on dystopia and police state and control, that's what manifests in the collective reality. That's what starts to emerge. And if you flick on Netflix now, if you don't take my word for it, flick on Netflix,
I don't
go
have
into
it.
the science, go into the science fiction section, and see how many police states or dystopian sci-fi things there are out there. And then just ask yourself, why? Why is this version of reality constantly being pushed in my face?
And also,
Why are the headlines designed to trigger so much fear and anger when actually, even Einstein said, you can't solve a problem from the same level of mind that created it. So you can't be in fear and anger and solve fear and anger. It would be like turning up to a burning house with flamethrowers instead of water cannons. It doesn't work. And so just ask yourself some questions. If the news was really coming from a place of love, why wouldn't they say, good news, everybody? Thanks to your efforts, we found some alternative methods that can boost your immune system. You need zinc, you need vitamin D, you need vitamin C. These are all very affordable and don't cost you anything at all. You can get it in so many sources. Here's a list of sources that we found where you can get this. Make sure you get your sunlight today, as that will boost your vitamin D production, which will be really good for you. Make sure that you drink some orange juice, and make sure you connect with your loved ones, because that heightened vibration is really going to support your immune system. No, but they don't talk like that. Why? Because in my opinion, the goal is not to support you to boost your health, but to further a narrative of control and oppression.
and I just feel like there's something that I want us to, because there are a lot of people listening, or could be, I'm thinking could be, this will exist for a long time, probably, that are thinking, yeah, but what is it? Because they're just not seeing the it that we are very aware of, right? So,
What
and
is what?
So we have talked around how state officials, very high ups, they know about our origins, right? How this is not disclosed to us as a people, and that at the same time they're also trying to dumb us down, control us, give us a false narrative. Obviously, because they're gaining something from it. But I want to go a little bit more. We can't touch upon everything, but why are you here? What are we here to disclose to the people if we have this chat, so that people can uncover the truth, so that people can uncover their hidden abilities and wake up to what's actually going on? What would be the things that they would actually really need to know right now in order to go ahead and do so? Even if it will take 10 years, at least we're planting the seeds, or being the way showers, as I call it, or as we're being called,
So, number one is you're immensely powerful. You're so powerful, and someone is very scared that a lot of people will realize that. So it's easier to keep people in suppression and hidden from their origins, because that would, if everyone wakes up to the reality of who we are, this whole place would transform. The whole planet would be a very beautiful place to be. I think, I don't know how to talk about these things without, going all the way home, in a way, like it's difficult.
Go ahead. Yeah.
But, someone has severe control issues. They don't understand. They don't understand love.
Yeah.
They don't get it. They don't get the soul. They don't, and that's another thing that's also been hidden from us. You're an eternal being. Look to all the ancient scriptures on the planet. They're all agreeing. You're an eternal being. You don't die. You don't disappear. The soul is eternal. And you are the soul. You have a body, but you are the soul. You're the soul that inhabits the body. And when you really start to tune into the potent of your soul and what kind of treasures are in your soul, and you activate that's very, very powerful. We are evolving right now into what a lot of people call homo illuminus, illuminated humans, where we are
beyond Homo sapiens.
Yeah, beyond Homo sapiens. They don't even use that word anymore in many circles, because we are evolving. We're already, so many of us have awakened our higher faculties. And this is also, when we evolve like this, we also can awaken some other abilities. They say we have 5 senses. That's also a lie. We have a lot more than 5 senses. Clairvoyance, telepathy, Maybe someone has felt that. You know, I met the scientist Rupert Sheldrake, and he's the scientist that coined the term the morphogenetic field. And he really described and proved how can a mother feel when her child is, you know, is having a bad time or an accident happened and they're not together even, but the mother feels it in her stomach.
Even if they're on the other side of the world.
Even if you're, yeah, if you're really far apart. You hear these stories about people who haven't talked for 5 years, and then they think about this person, and then the person calls them. How is that possible? It's possible because we're all interconnected. There isn't any separation. It looks like there's it looks like it's separated, but it's not. And we are interconnected, and there is a field connecting us. And really, when you look within and really understand that you have everything you need inside of you, you don't need to look so much outside, but you start to tune in to what you have and what gifts you have, because it's also unique to every single one of us. We have, like, every single one has a unique fingerprint. There isn't one person on earth with the same fingerprint. We all have a very specific, tailor-made set of gifts. And when we unpack that, then life becomes really a lot of fun. And that's also when you feel like you are living, you know, with passion and living your life with meaning, because you are fully embodying who you truly are. You're not living a lower self expression, which is full of dualistic noise.
The thing is also, as you begin to tune in more, you can just feel when someone is truthful or when someone is trying to lie to you.
Yeah.
And so for me,
because it's frequency.
From the place that I'm at right now, the shocking thing for me is how more people don't natively feel it or perceive it. Because I can watch some health official with dark circles under their eyes with gray skin. It looks like they've just woken up from the morgue. And this person is talking about health, and I can see that they don't feel what they're saying. I can't feel what they're saying. I can't look at them and say, that person is coming from a place of love and compassion. And so that is my litmus test. That is my barometer. That's how I make choices. Is the person talking to me coming from a place of love and service, or are they coming from a place of fear and scarcity and lack and doubt and worry? And just tune into that and just gravitate in the direction of the love and the compassion. Go towards the light. Go towards what feels light rather than what feels heavy and dense.
I also want to really add to that it's immensely important that we are what we wish to see in the world. That we ourselves, if you want more love, like, be more loving. If you want to see more, you know, harmony and peace and respect, like, be more harmonious and loving and respectful. Like, that's the only way we turn that kind of thing around.
Yeah. And I just we've talked for a long time, and I could go on and on. I just love this so much. But I really wanted to have this in here because you're speaking about how you want something to exist in your life, and you need to embody that. And I would love I have another question, but I would love for you to speak also a little bit more about how you met, because I find that story, and
How we met?
yeah, and also how you came together, you know, on your joint mission, as I see it, in order to fully manifest the life that you have together, and how you manifest each other and how it's manifesting in your life. But before we go into that, because that was just so beautifully said, what we want in life, we need to embody. This is all about embodiment. This is all about tuning in, listening, and feeling all of the things that we haven't been taught. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is the children, because also as a mother, you know, I'm very, very passionate about just actually allowing my children to be. I don't feel like I need to do much. I just need to allow them to be. You know, my daughter speaks of colors, she sees auras, she understands, she feels things, and I'm just there to be like, yep, Sure. We have a game, which is what color are you today? She's like, I have to be outside and I have to squint my eyes, but I'm a little bit tired now. And that's what it's about. This is about the children. I don't know. Obviously, I would love to be here for my children, but I don't know how long I'm going to stay. I also want to leave this place for the children, and also the children that are in captivity, the children that have been abused. You were talking about Netflix. There's so much sexualized imagery around. Really, like a dear friend of mine was posting how there's like a twerking group for 11-year-olds with a lot of sexual content on Netflix. And I also want to bring that in here, this awareness of how children are the ones we are really here, I feel, in my mission to protect. Because one thing is for me to feel good and to be awakened and to tap and tune in, but the children, they are the keepers of the earth. They are the ones to inherit it. They are the ones we are here to protect. And therefore, that's why I'm so passionate about talking about COVID, or, the injections, or these, I read something about how, mothers aren't even, children aren't even able to see their mother's facial expression because they're wearing the mask all the time.
This is such bullshit. Yeah.
Do you have something to add on that? Do you feel like there's something around?
Yeah, I think that, like, I love, there's a channeler that I respect a lot. He channels star beings from Andromeda. And in Andromeda, they are 5,000 years more ahead of us. And I love that, because to understand what we're moving towards, we need to have some examples of other cultures and other civilizations and how they do things, because we are in so many ways on a very infant stage here on Earth. On Andromeda, they have tremendous respect for their children. They look upon them as a better version of themselves, because their children has also, they have all the cell memory from their parents, so they are actually an evolved next step of the evolution. So they look upon them as teachers, and I think that that's so important, to look upon children as teacher and as a better version of yourself in so many ways, that they're a more,
your successor,
advanced, and to do that within also preserving you are a parent. There's a balance, so you can't there's a balance there.
Oh, my little guru wants ice cream every day. Yes, yes, master.
That can be, but I have one spiritual teacher. He says that the children that are here now, the crystal children, they're very intelligent, so they can very easily trick you. So you have to teach them a lot of ethics.
It's so true.
Yeah, a lot of ethics, because they're very smart. I have a friend, she has a daughter, she's 3 years old, and she told her daughter, you can only bring one teddy bear outside. And she said, okay. And she gave her mother one teddy bear. She said, you hold this. And then she picked up one teddy bear for her. And then she said, let's go. So that's the kind of intelligence that you're looking at. They're smart. And yeah, if you can relate to your children in that way, that, they're also, everything is one. Everything is interconnected. The children are the innocence of us, of the grown-ups in so many ways, and it definitely needs to be protected because it's under attack, and that's a whole another very long story. Yeah.
I feel that's another podcast.
That's another podcast.
I mean, something that people can just immediately do is just become aware of where they might be receiving certain programming on reality, because programming becomes like tinted glasses. Like, imagine it's a bright sunny day and I have these dark blue lenses and I put them on. Everything is going to be looking a little bit more gray and blue that day, because that's the lens that I'm seeing the world through. And if you constantly tune into the news, which is designed to spike emotion, it's not designed to report facts. Like, it's the same old news just happening to different people. And you know, it's kind of like if you have a blender, you can't make lemonade if you put in kale, right? You have to actually put lemons in to get lemons out. So if you're constantly absorbing all of this negativity and fear, how are you going to create positivity in the world? So there's one thing to be aware, but at the same time not be embroiled or too immersed in it. Be aware that it's there so that you have the knowledge and you can make more educated decisions for yourself, your loved ones, the people you care about, etc. But at the same time, don't get lost in it, because there is a lot of programming, and it soaks in without you realizing it. So whether it's Netflix or the news, or just be discerning about what you watch and what you allow your kids to watch, because
Oh yeah, there's programming happening either or. If
Yeah.
it's positive programming or
Now
negative.
it's almost with my youngest, it's almost impossible
Yeah,
to steer away from, because it's
yeah,
everywhere. You know,
it's
before
everywhere.
we didn't have all of these things that's just popping up everywhere. However, I wanted really to end on this sweet note with
Yeah.
how you called each other into your life. You're really like the way you share about your relationship, how you are so authentic and honest about what a relationship and
Mm.
really what it really is for, and how you navigate that together. You've just shared, especially you, Chanel, but both of you, and I just find it so authentic. It's so real. It's not only this lovey-dovey, again, programming. Let's get married, have kids, and everything's beautiful, and we are just going to shine on. No, life is real. Yet, yeah. Would you want to talk about how you met, and I don't know, the
Sure.
level of honesty and authenticity you have together? It seems.
So about 4 years ago, I was having a session with my mentor here in Oslo, and I asked him, no, he said to me, there's an opening for you to find a life partner right now. And I was in a very not interested in that at all. I just came out of a relationship and I was more in a man-hater mood. It was really negative. Like I was like, yeah, where do I find a good man? And they don't grow on trees. And I was really in this kind of a space. And
but they do climb them.
they do climb. And then he said, no, they don't grow on trees, but you can manifest one. You have a strong manifestation power. And then I went to Bali and I went to Akasha, which is this event center. And one day, this sounds really weird, but I was standing in the shower and this very strong white spirit I see in the shower, very strong male features. And I hear a voice say, "There's a very important man coming in, a person coming into your life right now." And I was like, "Okay." And then I saw a poster saying that in the place that I was staying, there would be a workshop about manifestation. And I was, oh wow, that's weird, because my teacher said I have a strong manifestation power and I can manifest one, so I should maybe go and take a manifestation course. So I went to this workshop and there Tariq was. So I was like, whoa, that's the dude from the shower. That's like, which was really weird. And yeah, so our first date, I told him that I love him, which is, like not
Within an hour, it
within
totally
an
freaked me
hour,
out.
because when I
Really?
saw his face up close, I remembered him from a previous incarnation. I remembered him from another place, and I was like, "Oh, there you are. I know you." And then I said also to him on the third date, I said, "You're the man of my life, and I know you don't see me yet, and that's okay, but you will." And that freaked him out, but
Even more.
Really?
even more. But I was coming from this place. I don't really want a relationship right now. So I might as well just be really, really honest. I
Exactly.
don't have anything to lose. And
Exactly.
it was such a liberating thing to be like,
We were both like that, because I was also coming out of a 2 year relationship, and so the last thing that I wanted was a relationship.
same.
And
Well,
so when we met, we're like, okay, you know what? Let's not waste a year of each other's time slowly handing out the cards, getting to know each other. Let's just lay the full deck on the table and say, these are all the times I've messed up. This is how I've
yeah.
hurt people in the past. These are where all my buttons are. This is how I've been hurt. Here's my childhood traumas. Here's all of it. Look at
We
it
we
all.
locked ourselves up in this beautiful bungalow or dome for about a week, and we were just like so honest about everything in our
like
past.
crazy radical honesty, like
Yeah.
not the kind of honesty that you would go into if you want to make a strong first impression,
Yeah.
but more like the honesty like, look, I don't have years to waste to
Yeah.
like just kind of find out if you actually like the real me, so I'm just going to tell you who's the real me.
Yeah.
If you don't, great, we've saved ourselves a lot of aggravation and headache, we can both go our separate ways, and we both chose to stay.
And that was kind of the foundation of our relationship. That was the start. And I have one teacher, he said it so beautifully many years ago. He said the new paradigm relationship is one where all the cards are in front of you, no cards behind your back. No, like it's full transparency. And we've lived by that since we met, and it's just, for me there's no other way. Like there isn't.
Yeah. And like it's not this lovey-dovey thing. Like, don't get me wrong, there's so much love and romance and care. What I'm saying is it's been in many ways walking through a fire. You know, it's the relationship is really the crucible that separates the silver from the dross. Like, if you can be honest in a relationship, choosing a partner is like choosing a study buddy and saying, hey, I would like to go on a journey that deepens and grows my soul. Would you like to come on this journey with me? And they provide that mirror, that feedback where you get to see all your shortcomings. You get to see all the areas that you still need to grow.
Yeah.
And recognizing that a really good partner will trigger you. A really good partner will challenge you. Because if they don't, then they're not really serving your growth.
Yeah.
And that's not a relationship, really. For me, like, a relationship is something that makes you a better person as a result. And you don't work on the relationship. The relationship is not something over here that we both work on. We work on ourselves. So Chanelle works on herself, I constantly work on myself, and because we're constantly working on ourselves, the relationship as an extension of us works.
I have one teacher, he said, a relationship can basically last forever as long as both parties are willing to work on themselves. And the moment one person refuses to work on themselves, the relationship collapses.
Yeah.
And I find that very true, to really stay truthful. And that's also like a very much a devotional path. I feel a relationship like this is, what to say, like a container for ascension. It can be used as a catalyst towards ascension, and also to choose to walk upon the path of awakening or together. It's very, very beautiful.
Also,
Yeah.
we don't have, like, I know some couples love to argue and fight and stuff like that. We really don't have any drama in our life. Like, one thing that Chanelle said really early on, which I loved, she said, you know, men in the world feel like they're going out into the day as if heading to the battlefield. And when they come home, they want a sanctuary. They want to be able to let down their shield and sword and be open and just be nurtured and held and recharge. And so many, well, you say this, so I'm not being sexist. This is something that Chanelle says. She says a lot of women.
Oh, I'm happy to say it. A lot of women are
so much
complete
drama.
bitches. No, I've seen so many of my friends, like it's a little bit worrying sometimes. Like, they make the home such an awful place to be. You know, it's like mines everywhere. So it's not a good place for a man to be. You know, like that's yeah. And sometimes there's reasons for that, and sometimes it's just pure ungratefulness and yeah, different things going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think, you know, I think we are meant to be on this ascension journey with masculine, feminine energies without, you know, I don't want to, you know, people find their own paths, right? But I feel like the masculine enables the feminine to do things that, and vice versa. That is just not possible. And I'm not talking necessarily just biology. It's how we're wired. We're wired for connection. We're wired for, this is sort of how nature is. You know, it's polarity that just needs one another in order to fully come into the full expression of who you are. But that's why I wanted you to talk about it, because it's so powerful the way your couple is. And I think it's so realist. It's not like this whole lovey-dovey
Yeah, it's not, and we don't hold stuff inside of us. We bring it up with each other. If something's bugging us, like if he feels like I'm doing something that's not, okay, he will tell me, and that's also the way that I grow. So we love that we can. We don't hold stuff inside. We don't let it build up for
Yeah, we
ages.
don't hold grudges
We don't hold
and things like
grudges,
that.
and I also don't hold him like you did like 2 years ago. You like we release, and that's also a practice in itself. And this is one of the most beautiful practices that I know of, is to really look upon your partner as a new person and yourself. If you can give yourself the gift of seeing yourself as a new being, everyone and everything transforms all the time. Every single cell in your body is always renewing. So be part of that cycle of creation, which is renewing, 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 and don't hold each other in like prisons of the past. Like see each other, like there's growth happening all the time. And like what you said also, like anything not growing is dying. Like that's such a true saying. Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love that.
So really, like finding a good partner for you is finding somebody who triggers growth, who catalyzes growth in you, and not by just being, because a lot of people live out their old relationship patterns based on their old beliefs and things like that, and that's a whole other subject. But if you can be willing, like when she says like, Tariq, I don't like this, rather than me taking the high horse and saying, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, or that's my truth, or whatever, I always take her point of view on, and I try it on like I would a sweater, and I put it on and I'd be like, does this fit? Is there some truth in this? Is what she's saying true, or does none of it resonate? And if it resonates, I'll be like, you know what, I can see how I've been that way. Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. Or I'll be like, I really thought about it, and I'm sorry. I feel like this particular thing is a projection. I don't feel like I'm being that way at all. Or at least that's not my intention, and I'm not coming from that space. And so, and being able to be that open and truthful with each other, our communication is, I would say, one of the highest forms of the evolution of our relationship. Is that we,
I think that, and also the ability to say sorry when you mess up. Like, that's for me, when I meet people who are able to say, I'm sorry, like, I respect them so much because it's a rare quality. It's not a lot of people that are able to say, I messed up, I'm sorry.
It takes
It's
a level
very
of
rare.
vulnerability. It's
Huh?
it's next level vulnerability, because you might feel stupid, or it might put you on the spot, but that level of humbleness is also, I feel, the depth of how you can feel, if you can
Yeah.
be that humble and soft hearted and really lay yourself down and really be like, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we all make mistakes from time to time, and that's called life, and that's part of being human.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love this podcast so much. Thank you so much for joining. And I'm going to add, obviously, your social media so that people can follow both of these people. As you can see, they're highly inspirational and they're really living their path, which I feel not everyone is doing. You know, there's a lot of talking, again, a lot of like, we want to, and it's all good to manifest and create something before you embody it, but I really look up to people who embody and walk the path with their every cell and every being in integrity,
something I just want to kind of leave
Yes,
Same.
people with
please.
is, we live in times right now that are very much like a choose your own adventure.
Mm.
You know those books where it's like, if you make this choice, turn to this page, and if you want to make this choice, you turn to that page. And you can have either. If you want to live out the dystopian reality, there's space for you to have that experience. If you place enough of your energy there, then that's the direction you'll start to be filtered down. Whereas if you really see this as a time of rebirth on the planet, and if you see this as a planetary purge, everything is, the stuff that's happening right now, it's not that it's happening now, it's always been happening. It's just that now it's become visible.
Mm.
Now we've swept back the rug to see all of the stuff that's been collecting underneath it. So this stuff is not new, it's actually old, but now we get to look at it as a species. And because of that, it's an opportunity to decide what kind of world you want to create. And if you really begin living that way, there is a level of ease and flow right now that we are experiencing that I've never experienced before. Like things just fall into place beautifully, things manifest beautifully, opportunities come, there's no struggle. And you can have that too. I'm not saying this is like a, oh, we get to have this. It's like you get to have that.
Yeah, yeah,
You get
absolutely.
to have that if you choose to believe it's possible. And that's why right now it's like, what version of reality are you going to press subscribe on?
Super true. Yeah, that was a good ending. Oh my God. Yeah. Thank you so much. We're just going to say bye to anyone listening. Thank you for listening. And I hope this gave you as much as it gave me. So just click subscribe also to these two people and yeah, the reality of your choice.
Thank
So
you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. Thank you everybody for listening now and in the future. It's been a real pleasure.
okay, bye.